I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Letitia Wright to talk all about her latest film, Aisha. And I love that when you came on board for this, Frank Berry, who's the writer and director of the film, had already spent several years talking to people who had specifically gone through the direct provision system in terms of immigration in Ireland. But you also had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people personally. And, Aisha's representation in the film is an amalgamation of so many different stories and experiences. And I was interested in the conversations that you had, how you found like little threads and details that you wanted to pull into her as a character on screen.
Okay. So you've done extensive research and I love it. I was going to tell you that.
Sorry to steal your
That is
answer.
good. Thank you so much. It feels good knowing that you really care and you've done your homework. I
Thank
love
you.
this. The conversations were an eye opener for me. Like it really just not only brought me into the world more of Aisha, but it also helped me to understand. It also opened my heart to have compassion and to just see the different layers of people's experiences. What I loved about the conversations during my time of research for this project is that you would expect people to, you you would think this system is, not doing you justice. It's quite frustrating, isn't it? And you'd be surprised to hear how many people were not pointing the finger. They weren't using it as an opportunity to talk down on anything. They were just like, we are so grateful for the opportunity to be here to get help, but it just needs to be improved. And we just want to be heard on how this can be improved. And I just really love that. It was just balanced and it was healthy. And I got to really understand on a deeper level what people were feeling for my character. Yeah.
I love that, especially because in the way that you play her in the film, she's an incredibly resilient character, but she's also incredibly hopeful and optimistic and warm and charismatic and all of these other things. And was it important to you in portraying her to bring that hopefulness even when she's facing so many obstacles?
Yeah, because the people who I was speaking to, they're they're just so layered in just their characters and their personalities. Like they're just like me and you, it's no different. It's just their circumstances are different. And I think people kind of run away with like false narratives that, this person has a crazy background and they just need, no, these are like doctors and like lawyers. Like these are like people who, were teachers back home and they just needed a place of safety. And that's the only difference. So I think for me, it was like, yeah, just wanting to share that more on screen, and show that truth a little bit more on screen.
And
Yeah.
even though she's obviously physically far away from her mom, we get such a sense of her family and what family means to all of them. The fact that her dad borrowed money to put her through university and to support her education. And, we get those little video phone calls with her mom, and you can tell that that's someone that she really looks to for guidance and support in life. And so, how did you set about developing these really strong family relationships when you didn't necessarily have the opportunity to play them on screen because they are such a part of her?
Mm. That was me collaborating with Frank, being really, straightforward with what I felt was missing in the script. I wanted to find those connections that felt different to what we usually see. You know, usually, the stories feel very one dimensional, like, and I wanted to make it more layered. And then for me, it was just about, finding connections of like, look, my father really, her father really is trying to make a better life for her back home. Like he took a wrong path of how to get there, but the end result was for him to have his daughter in university because she's super smart and she's amazing. And then finding that connection with her mom as well, someone, so I had to build that really I had to build that backstory and find a backstory for me that didn't feel like something that was always being done, but a backstory that felt quite refreshing to me to be like, yeah, like, the Nigerian university is definitely a place where she was just like, I'm getting a position there, you know what I mean? And that was her aim, that was her goal. So I hope that answers it.
It does. And in terms of talking about her personality a little bit, I love that she kind of comes across as someone that, it takes a little bit longer to crack the shell because she's a little bit quieter and shyer as a person. It doesn't feel like that's as a result of what she's going through and all of these obstacles. It feels like that's always been her personality type. But once someone kind of gets in there, she really opens up and there's a lot of lightness. And so how did you set about developing this personality that's a little bit more introverted? And then what does it look like when she starts to come out of her shell with Connor, played by Josh O'Connor in the film?
I like that you've analyzed that. I think that for me, I felt like Aisha, when I was doing the backstory, I felt like Aisha was more extroverted back home because it's
Mm.
home, and she's with her family. And I feel like the experience of like leaving home and going miles away, I feel like throughout, as the days went by, the months went by, the years went by, this armor kind of was created for her to protect herself because she's a woman in a strange land without any family members. Like, she couldn't afford to keep her guard down. And I feel like, she had to learn that too from like the advice from her mom, like you have to be very wise when you are taking this step to leave. And I feel like with Connor, he finds a way to break through that. I don't think he tries, I don't think he's super great at it. I just think she just kind of like sees his heart and she kind of lets her guard down a bit. I feel like he didn't really have to work that hard, you know. She just kind of let him off. But I love their dynamic in their relationship because it's something that she does want. She, and she does. I feel like if more than love, like more than a romantic relationship, she wanted just to be like friends. That's why I love their scenes. They're so pure. Like when they're like, just I'm spoiling it for the audience, but go watch the movie. But when they're just laying down and just like it's kind of like a fetal position. They're just laying down, and it's just there's nothing crazy happening. It's just pure. I love it. I love it.
I love as well when she's teaching him like turns of phrase and then he's repeating
Yeah,
them back to
pigeon.
her. Was
Yeah.
that fully scripted out or was that improvised a little bit because it just has such a natural levity in that moment with both of you?
It was a mixture of the two because at the same time I was learning pigeon as well for my character. But I just loved it. Yeah, like that moment in the script is great. So I was actually learning pigeon to tell him. So it's a bit of both. There's the skeleton of the scene and then me just literally throwing things at him and seeing how well he does with it.
And in the way that Frank has shot this film as a director, it's not necessarily about getting loads of different camera angles and coverage. It's so focused on your performance. And, I've heard that like he did a lot of long takes as well. What was that experience in terms of the relationship that you in turn had with him as a director and with the camera in being able to have that space to just sit and live and breathe in the scenes for so long?
I love your questions.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I want to interview with you all the time, each project that I
Done.
do. You have to promise. You have to
I
promise.
promise. I promise.
Great. That is correct. We had long takes, and he's the type of director which I love. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't intrude on the process. We actually would take long walks before we even got the camera, and our ADs were freaking out. And they were like, time, time, time. But we would walk and we would discuss and we would process together each scene. And he allowed me and himself too to just breathe, like literally breathe with the scene, understand what it is, and take our time and just live, like be in the moment. And I trusted him to capture it. I trusted him to get the truth with our cinematographer. So I just love that. Yeah, it is exactly what you said it was, and for me, that process allowed me to live in the character even more. And I had, even if we would do like 9, 10 takes sometimes, but it didn't feel exhausting. It just felt like another opportunity to find more moments of truth for Aisha.
Yeah.
And as you can see, we have a beautiful film because of it.
You do. And I love also in the way that the story has been told with the two of you on screen, that it kind of breaks down a lot of the systemic issues with this sort of immigration process and the system at play, but it does through it in a way that really resonates in terms of character. And so one of the big turning points for Aisha is when she's moved to a different center. She's not even given more than a couple of hours. It's like the taxi's already on its way, off you go to this next place. She has a job. She's been building a life where she is. How did that really change things for Aisha in terms of your perspective and how you felt like emotionally that was going to set her a little bit differently once that happens to her?
Mm, great question. Um, when those situations were popping up in the script, they connected a lot to people who I'd interviewed, and they would just let you know in the middle of the night, someone will come, either either the police will come, wake you up in the middle of the night, take your kids away, or it would be someone saying, hey, you've been transferred and moved, and you don't even have time to say goodbye. So I feel like I carried those like experiences from what I had heard with me. And I feel like naturally, like, if you've been uprooted from somewhere that is kind of like you're just getting used to it, you're just finding your safe space here, and you get uprooted into somewhere like middle of nowhere, it would have a dampening effect on your emotions and your ability to see your future come alive. So I feel like I just tapped into the truth of the situation. Like, what would it mean for someone to come and pick me up from my house and drive me all the way to, I don't know, middle of nowhere, and then say, hey, start over again? It'll be difficult. So I tapped into the truth, and the truth is there on screen. So yeah.
And also usually when you play a character, you get the opportunity to have, a multitude of different costumes that really kind of speak to the character's journey. But with this, it's actually the fact that she doesn't have a huge amount of changes of clothes, because she literally has to have what she can throw into a bag at short notice. With what you were saying, if someone comes in the middle of the night, you have to be able to like throw everything in a bag and move somewhere completely new. And so did you look at, what are the objects that I feel like are important for her, and what would be those few items of clothing that she would have with her?
Yes, so great. Definitely the items that I felt were very close to Aisha's heart. The clothes are very minimal. You know, Not only that, it's also like the idea of starting over without security of if you can start over. It's like, why invest in so many different things? But also your money is also very limited. You have to send money back home. So you have to really be strategic about what you do. I feel like the family photos, things connecting her to back home is very important. Her prayer mat, that's how she worships, that's how she prays for what she needs next. Um, uh, and I would say, yeah, those are the items that I felt more connected to um for her. Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
were bringing up like the prayer mat, obviously, and the fact that she, we do see her kind of like very connected to her religion in the film. What was the importance of that relationship, particularly with everything that she's experiencing in the narrative?
It was everything, because also her mom reminds her that it's important to pray, and she wants to honor her mom even when her mom's not there. And that's the only thing she has to hold on to. And most times when you're in situations like that, even though sometimes you're angry at God, you're just like, what the heck's going on? Like, but that's the only thing she had to hold on to. And I resonate with that when you're in difficult times and situations, and all you have is just that moment of prayer. And that's the only thing that keeps you. So I understood where she was coming from.
And I don't want to give too much away, but there's a scene that I loved partway through the film where, she's gotten some really bad news, and she's had setback against setback against setback, and she ends up kind of physically breaking some of the things around her in the space that she's living in at that point. And I just thought it spoke so much, because it didn't feel like behavior that was common for her. It felt very out of character, but it also felt very justified in that moment with everything that she's going through, and the fact that she doesn't have an outlet for her emotions in her day to day to begin with. And so
Mhm.
how did you want to go into just finding the emotional space of a scene like that?
Oof, man. If I bring myself back to that moment, I knew what I was processing as just LW. Like I knew what I was feeling in terms of like my experiences of loss and, people that I had, just, lost. And I just also understood like that feeling of limbo and like I it was a combination of how I was feeling, but also like what she was feeling. And I just wanted the truth of it to come out. We didn't have many takes to do it, but I just kind of just allowed that stuff to feed me and just tried to tell the truth. Um, tried to tell the truth, and I just told the camera, I just told our cinematographer, I was just like, don't miss. Don't miss because I could do this maybe twice, maybe three times, but don't miss. You have to be with me here, because I'm about to pour out. So it's a mixture of those things. Um, yeah, so that was a very tough scene to shoot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also wanted to talk about there's a couple of scenes where we see her going through the interview process and there's that whole thing of she's had to practice how she's going to answer things and it's so tricky because it's really her having to perform trauma for other people. And I love that line that's in the trailer as well, where she's like, it's not a story. This isn't something I'm making up. This is my experience and this is my truth. And so for you, what was the importance of a moment like that where she's like, I will tell you what happened and I'll tell you in the way that you need to hear it, but also I need to have an element of ownership and autonomy in the way that I'm telling you my story.
That's great. I love how you broke that down. It's definitely, you know, I feel like it's tackling so many different things because with people's experiences like this, people tend to just box it up. This is how it is. It's the package, and this is what we believe it to be. And I think with Aisha, I just wanted to add some complexities to it. I just wanted to add some layers that yes, this is someone's journey, but it's not something. I don't want you to just see it as, oh, it's another day in the life of someone who's seeking asylum. Let me hear the story. Tell me what it is. It's like, no, this is real life. This is real situations that's happening. And I also wanted the opportunity to just show like she's just like everybody else. She's just in a tough spot in life right now, and she just needs some compassion and understanding. So yeah, I feel like I can answer that in so many different ways, but I think if I'm to keep it like super simple as best as possible, like she in those moments, she just wanted people to not see her as a victim all the time. It's kind of like, I'm gonna tell you what it is, but I'm also gonna tell you like I'm just here for safety and just to get an opportunity. Once I get an opportunity to better my situation, this is what I want. Like I want to better. I don't want a handout. You know what I mean? So it's just dealing with so many things all at once,
Yeah.
which what that's why I love the movie so much.
Same. I mean,
Yeah.
it's such a beautifully layered performance throughout the film. So I've loved the opportunity to talk with you about it. Thank you so much,
Thank
Letitia.
you. Thank you. You've been great.